everybody, happy Wednesday. Wanted to just jump on, do a check-in video. So the last video that I made, I talked about how I had fallen into like a little bit of a depression funk for a couple weeks and was coming out of that. And everything has been pretty decent since then. I haven't got back on track with like fully pushing nutrition, which is, very important for the weight loss. But a couple of victories with that is because I've been trying to put a lot less pressure on myself as I've been going into this. There's some different things that I've been noticing. So for example, rather than telling myself, let's say I'm gonna use sandwich and chips. If I have a sandwich, like I have to have chips with it, right? So rather than saying, I can't have chips because they, are unhealthy. I allow myself to have them, and then I just try and monitor how much I'm having. And anyway, so different things like that, where if I want something that would have otherwise been like banned or not allowed, I'm allowing myself to have it. And what I've been noticing over the past maybe week and a half or so is that I am eating less. And I think that's because of it. So what I mean by less is, so in my mind, I would be one who's always gonna finish everything, right? So I'm gonna have my sandwich, I'm gonna have my chips, and maybe I grabbed too many chips and I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna finish the chips. What I'm finding is I'll have that happen, but then once I get my fill of the chips, which I'm getting my fill, I don't finish what's on the plate. I'm like, actually, I got what I need and I'm feeling good. And then I stop and it's a really good balance type thing, I feel. And so that's been a really cool thing, is just realizing that I'm eating things that are less healthy, but because I'm allowing it, I'm eating less of it. I hope that makes sense. It's very early in the morning and I've already been up for several hours, so my brain's a little on the struggle bus. But anyway, so I think that's been definitely a win. And but the biggest thing is, especially when we're talking about depression, I'm a big believer of, always observing your patterns so we can learn from them. One thing about depression is it is not something that we choose. It's not something that's like optional, like just choose not to have depression or just choose to be happy. It's not, but what I think we can do is make daily choices that's gonna make that depression a little better, a little worse. So for example, if I choose to not work out, I know that potentially the following day, my depression might start creeping its little head. If you're somebody who vaping I know can have a toll on depression. So if you're choosing to vape, that could be something that's playing in, and that's a choice that you make daily that can play into your depression. If you're choosing to isolate, if you're somebody that has depression, that's, at least for me anyway, that's what I always like to do. I like to isolate, but being aware of that and making that choice also, again, plays into the depression. So I just think it's important to look at like our daily choices and our daily habits and try to decide, if you're someone that struggles, how does that factor in, or how does that play into your depression? Is the choices that I'm making today gonna set me up for better success with my depression tomorrow? So anyway, when I fell into that last depression, one thing that I paid attention to, and this is something I've been noticing more and more, is my periods. When they come around, it can definitely be what sets things off. And so I might, have a few days of the PMS, and in those days kind of let my guard down and stop making the daily decisions that I know are going to help me. And then it just creeps in. And so then it might go from just being like, a couple days of PMS to where it goes into that full-fledged depression funk. So anyway, what I'm doing is I'm trying to learn from that. And so a few days ago, I always know when I'm approaching, when I start getting like emotional over a commercial, right? So I was watching a little commercial and I start getting a little watery eyed, and I'm like, oh shoot. So I check my calendar, because I'm someone that uses that, and I look and I'm like, oh yep, I'm supposed to start in a couple days. But the reason I'm sharing that is because I looked at what it did to me last month, and I know that it's something that I always struggle with. So this month I said, let's go in and be prepared. So once I realized that it was approaching, I told myself, okay, for this next, from now until, probably a week or so, I need to make sure I'm prioritizing my movement. Last time I didn't do that, and it caused me to really fall down. And so this time I'm like, prioritize the movement. I have to make those daily choices to try and keep my head above water as I go into this. And that means, and it doesn't have to be, I don't have to do some extreme workout or anything like that. Like, it can literally just be my walks. And I just always say that because that's a lot less like it's a lot easier to talk yourself into, right? Sometimes it's hard to be like, all right, I'm gonna go to the gym every day, but you know what? I can just tell myself I'm gonna go take a 10-minute walk, and chances are good that it's not gonna be a 10-minute walk. And for me, the way that it's been is because I am working on my running and I'm doing a Couch to 5K app, is I'll tell myself, all right, I'm just gonna go walk. Like, you don't even need to run today, just go out and walk. But then once I have my shoes on and I'm out there, I'm like, well, why am I gonna be out here walking when I could be doing my walking, running, and working on my app? So that usually is what ends up happening. But there was a day where I was like, no, I'm not feeling it. I'm just gonna stick with the walk, and that was okay too. So anyway, approaching and moving into this cycle, I have been like, okay, it is not an option. You will exercise every single day. Yesterday, I feel like was probably the worst day, where I woke up and I was feeling very blah, and it was a day where I would typically isolate and kind of do like almost like a paralysis, where you just can't even make yourself move. And because I had recognized that early in the day, I tried to do the opposite of that. I said, no, we're not doing this. Like, you're gonna still follow your routine, you're still gonna get some work done, you're still gonna do all the things. And I kind of forced that, and even though it was a little bit challenging, it made me feel less like worthless about the day. Like, I got some stuff done. And then in the evening, same thing. I did not want to walk. I didn't want to do it, but I knew that especially yesterday with the way that I was feeling, which was like in the past couple of days, I'd say it was the strongest day as far as like feeling like those feelings were a lot stronger, where I was feeling that depression wanting to like rip me down. So anyway, in the evening, I forced myself, and it did. It started out, I'm gonna go for a walk, got out there, and I was like, all right, I'm not just walking, I'm gonna do my walk run. And then by the time I was done, I was really glad that I did it, and I was definitely feeling a little bit better. And then I wake up today and already feeling a little bit better. So I'm kind of hopeful that yesterday was probably the big day that I was really kind of make it or break it. And fortunately, I chose to make it. And then hopefully that was just the big one, and it'll just progress from here, and maybe I got through a successful period without allowing myself to fall into a funk. So I just think that's very important to put out there, not to be TMI, but I just think it's something that especially a lot of women might want to pay attention to and recognize. And again, looking at your patterns and your habits and deciding, what do I need to do different to be able to survive this? And I'm feeling really good about just calling myself out on it going into this one, and especially yesterday, the choices that I made. And I think that's really just setting me up for much better success, because I already feel like, all right, I'm doing pretty decent now as I'm getting through this, which makes me feel like I can be even stronger next week once I'm past it. And I just feel like I'm hitting the ground running a little bit more, so if that makes sense. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I wanted to share, if you're somebody that struggles from depression, definitely observe your patterns. And I mean observe them in a way that's going to be beneficial to you, not in a way that you're going to hate on yourself. Don't observe them and be, hard on yourself and like use it as a way to bash yourself. Use it as a way to figure out how you can work with yourself and make different changes to help work on that. So, all right, you guys, we'll chat soon.